Mr. President, the good news about the tax bill that I believe we'll pass in the next few days is it'll go into effect the first day of January, and people will quickly see, no matter how loud others were talking, the exact facts. For work done in January, people who get that check in January or February, whenever you get paid for your January work, there's going to be a substantial tax decrease for working families at all levels. And our friends want to talk about what happens after 2025 or 2027. Surely the Congress can do its job between now and then, but this is a pro-growth policy. These are two ways to increase people's take-home pay, and we're going to pursue both of them. One is to take less out of your pay right now, and that will happen not a year from now, not a year and a half from now. That'll happen next month. So next month, when people get their paycheck, Mr. President, it'll be clear to them who had the facts and who didn't have the facts on this. And the second way to increase people's pay is to have better jobs to start with. Hundreds of economists that have looked at this bill say that it will make the United States of America the best place to invest your money and create jobs. And I think we'll know sooner rather than later that that happens. And so good tax policy, common sense regulation, and judges, another thing we're working on this week, make a difference in how people look at an economy that they want to invest in, an economy they want to grow. Now, why would judges make a difference? Judges make a difference because judges create a sense of fairness in the court, create a sense of ability to get your case heard, and create a sense that what the law says hopefully is what the judge will decide rather than what the judge thought the law should say. And we're making great progress on all of those areas if we add good tax policy to what's been happening. But right now, Mr. President, we're talking about judges, and President Trump has a unique opportunity to shape the long-term view of the judiciary. This week, we're going to confirm 3 circuit judges. I want to talk in just a little bit about what that means, but at the start of President Trump's term, 12% of all the federal judiciary seats were vacant. No president's had that kind of opportunity since President Clinton had that opportunity now almost 25 years ago when he started his first year. And the president will have the opportunity and is making the most of it to fill those vacancies. I believe President Trump made the right choice when he selected Justice Gorsuch to serve on the Supreme Court. There was a record as a circuit judge. You could look at what he had decided. We could look, Mr. President, you and I and other members of the Senate could look at what he had decided and anticipate after 10 years of that record what his record would look like. And it makes a difference. I have no doubt that President Trump will continue to nominate judges who will rule as Justice Scalia, the last vacancy created with the unfortunate loss of Justice Scalia, who, by the way, Mr. President, served on the Supreme Court for 26 years after the person that nominated him left the White House, and 13 years after President Reagan died. So the legacy of what happens here is important. But Justice Scalia, became profound in his sense that the judge of the work of the court was not to decide what the legislature should have done. The work of the court was to decide what the law said and what the Constitution said. And there are ways to change the law and there are ways to amend the Constitution. But a person who is on the court needs to look at what the Constitution and the law say. That's what makes it so important. The Supreme Court vacancies tend to get a lot of attention, but frankly, it's just as important to nominate and confirm the jobs that the President and the Senate share, and it's our responsibility too. The Constitution could have said, we'll report to the Senate unless there's some big objection, that person becomes a judge. Not what it says. It says the Senate will confirm. And according to the view this morning of federal vacancies, there are 140 lifetime vacancies on the court, slightly more than 140 to be filled. So far this year, we've confirmed 10 circuit judges. By the time we leave this week, I think we will have confirmed 12 circuit judges. That's got to be close to a post-World War II record, and long time since World War II, long time since a president had the opportunity to do that. You know, why do you need to do that? First of all, the people of the country have the right to seek justice and to believe that the rule of law will prevail. The Supreme Court, Mr. President, hears about 100, maybe 150 cases in a year, but the circuit courts, the 12 circuits where you appeal a lower federal court ruling to those 12 circuits, they hear many cases, and about 7,000 of those cases are appealed to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court deals with 100, 150 of them, so the circuit judges in the 12 circuits often write what in our structure is essentially final law. The final rule of any court is at the circuit level. The Federal Bar Association says the number of federal judicial vacancies throughout the court is now straining the capacity of the federal courts to do their job. And in cooperation with the president, we have a job to do here. There's capacity to hear the case is important. Justice delayed is justice denied. Filling these vacancies is also critical to ensure that the balance of the Constitution is in place. You know, this was a brand new idea when James Madison and others thought of putting a machine together. They sometimes refer to the Constitution as the instruments that will be the guidelines for a machine that was so finely balanced that it would govern itself. That the court, the judiciary, the legislative branch, the executive branch, all had unique powers, and those unique powers were designed to keep the government in check. A new concept in 1787, but it's worked well for us, but it doesn't work if we allow one of those groups to become out of balance, and so filling these vacancies matters. The leadership of the majority leader, the leadership of Chairman Grassley and his committee all make a difference. By moving forward as we are this week, as we move through these three nominees this week, we're advancing our goal of restoring the courts to judges who will determine what the law says, not what they think it should say. I urge my colleagues, of course, to support these well-qualified nominees, but I also urge my colleagues on the other side to stop using the process to frustrate the other work of the government. You know, there's a right to 30 hours of debate, and that's what we're in right now. We're in 30 hours of debate on a circuit judge, but nobody is talking about that circuit judge. So other bills that could have been brought to the floor, other issues that could have been dealt with, aren't being dealt with because the minority has decided to abuse their power to say we're going to have 30 hours of debate about this judicial nominee and then have no debate about the judicial nominee. Doesn't mean we don't need to confirm the judges, but it does mean if we did that in a way that made sense to the people we work for, that we'd be doing other business now, and these three judges would have already be confirmed. They will be confirmed this week, Mr. President, and my belief is that if the rules that are designed to protect the minority in the Senate are abused, that those rules don't last forever. Eventually, you have to say, okay, facts are facts. This rule isn't being used for this way. The Senate has to do the people's work, and if rules have to be changed to do that, I'm for changing those rules.